the Big Tree Thinking Model Theory and Junior High School Mathematics. Hello everyone, I am Park. Today, we are organizing a lecture on the integration of the Big Tree Thinking Model Theory and Junior High School Mathematics. We will create a promotional video. The Big Tree Thinking Model Theory is the golden key to unlocking all learning. This statement may sound like a big claim or empty words to everyone, but don't worry. Please continue reading, and in the end, you will see if it matches what I said. First, let me briefly introduce the theory of the Big Tree Thinking Model. This theory originated from my experience of tutoring students in mathematics. While providing them with math lessons, I often pondered, why are these children struggling with learning mathematics? Through extensive practice and reflection, I discovered that the most significant issue lies in their thinking patterns. As understood by adults, a thinking pattern refers to a particular way of thinking. I refer to it as a thinking model. It involves organizing various types of thinking, including logical thinking, abstract thinking, and so on, into a relatively consistent framework. This allows individuals to generate a mental image of this model when contemplating problems. By doing so, they can consider the problem comprehensively and systematically derive the correct conclusions step by step. Especially for students who struggle to know where to begin when studying, what can be done? In such cases, we teach them this thinking pattern so that they will know how to approach problems. That's why I mentioned the theory of the Big Tree Thinking Model. It serves as a golden key, unlocking not only learning but also all other problems one may encounter in the process. As for why it is called the Big Tree Thinking Model Theory, it is because when I was summarizing this thinking pattern, I found that it shares many similarities with certain characteristics of a big tree. Additionally, I needed to provide students with a concrete visual representation that would immediately come to mind when they consider a problem. Therefore, I chose the image of a big tree. After introducing the concept of a big tree, with proper nurturing over some time, students will develop a mental image of this big tree whenever they encounter any problem. With this mental image, they will know where to start, how to analyze the problem, and how to solve it. It serves as a visual framework that guides their thinking process. As for thinking patterns, everyone has their variety. However, I refer to the thinking patterns of most people as habitual thinking patterns. How do these habitual thinking patterns form? They develop gradually based on one's social environment, living conditions, family background, and so on. Now, whether these habitual thinking patterns are right or wrong is not the main concern. You can judge their validity based on the results they produce. If a child is not performing well in academics, as long as they are not intellectually disabled, it means that their habitual thinking patterns are flawed. If a teacher is unable to effectively teach students or if the student's academic performance is poor, it means that the habitual thinking patterns used in instruction are incorrect. As the saying goes, you may not have hit the mark in your teaching. However, the reality is that even if you did cover the material, students might not remember, pay attention, or even listen. What could be the reasons behind this? I will explain this issue in detail later on. In summary, although the Big Tree Thinking Model Theory originated from math tutoring, it has positive effects on not only mathematics but also other subjects such as physics, chemistry, language arts, and more. I have already verified this through practical application. Let's go back and discuss why we are organizing this lecture and why we are specifically integrating it with junior high school mathematics. Firstly, whether as parents or teachers, we all understand a fundamental principle. The transition from elementary school mathematics to junior high school mathematics marks a qualitative leap. Elementary school mathematics primarily focuses on artificially defined operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. However, when it comes to junior high school mathematics, it takes a different approach. It incorporates elements such as analysis, reasoning, and deduction. In other words, it delves into the study of numbers rather than mere arithmetic. This concept should be clear to everyone. Therefore, when children reach junior high school, their thinking patterns begin to gradually form, making this period crucially important. In addition, Junior high school mathematics is the foundation of all mathematics and the most essential component. It is also the most widely applicable subject in future work and daily life. That's why I emphasize starting from junior high school. Secondly, junior high school mathematics itself is closely related to the application forms of the big tree thinking model theory. Moreover, the textbooks used in junior high school mathematics cover a wide range of topics. Therefore, I believe that starting with junior high school mathematics and explaining the big tree thinking model theory to students is highly practical and relevant. Thirdly, I must address or explain an observation. If we look at the children around us who struggle academically, most of them tend to have difficulties in mathematics. Whether as parents or teachers, have you ever wondered why this is the case? Children's academic struggles often begin with difficulties in learning mathematics. Some theorists or prominent figures argue that mathematics is a reflection of abstract thinking ability. However, they fail to explain how this abstract thinking ability is acquired or developed. If a person lacks a sound thinking pattern, how can they generate proficient abstract thinking skills? Therefore, the thinking pattern is the fundamental basis of human thinking. I wonder if everyone agrees with this point. If a person's thinking pattern is flawed, no matter what type of thinking they use, be it logical thinking or abstract thinking, the problems they consider will be flawed, and consequently, the conclusions they reach will be flawed as well. Only by establishing a sound form of thinking pattern, and building a robust, complete, and perfect thinking model, can an individual's thinking ability develop and progress. Please take a moment to reflect on the validity of this statement. This is why I emphasize the importance of thinking patterns. Many people have not considered this question, and, unfortunately, many educational institutions in the world do not have a curriculum that specifically explains what thinking patterns are to students. This is indeed a regrettable aspect of human life. Let's not discuss the broader direction and instead focus on the specific reasons why students struggle in their studies. Okay, let's discuss why students perform poorly in their studies and what causes it. A child's academic performance is influenced by three main factors: the student, the school environment, and the family environment. These are the three fundamental factors to consider. However, each child's experiences and environments in these three aspects are unique, leading to different initial habitual thinking patterns. These thinking patterns can be either correct or incorrect. It's important to understand the interconnectedness of these three factors. Now, let's start by discussing the student aspect. When it comes to children, we don't need to delve into the details of their junior high school years because matters regarding arithmetic during that time are relatively simple. Even if some children struggle with it, they can eventually understand it as they grow older. The most important aspect of arithmetic is that it consists of artificially defined and standardized knowledge. It simply requires memorization. In reality, the arithmetic proficiency of children at the elementary school level is generally similar. However, it should be noted that the education system in today's society has become more complex, systematic, and advanced. We may not have a comprehensive understanding of these developments. Therefore, I don't intend to provide further explanations on this matter. Regarding children's education issues, especially during their elementary school years, including their early childhood education, I have covered this topic in another lecture. Therefore, I won't go into further explanations here. We emphasize the importance of starting from junior high school because if you are parents with children or teachers listening to this lecture, you can reflect on the fact that during the junior high school stage, children experience a significant shift in their learning, including the development of their personalities, the emergence of rebellious tendencies, and even the challenges of the so-called adolescent rebellious phase. Indeed, it is quite normal for many children, especially after completing compulsory education, to face challenges such as not being able to enter high school and being exposed to various external influences that may lead to negative behaviors. These are common phenomena that can arise during this transitional phase. Let's talk about the students themselves. Think about it for a moment. Regardless of what they have learned over the years, whether they actively engage in studying or not, any phenomenon is irrelevant. Firstly, after going through so many years, children grow into teenagers. They have also received various forms of education from society, family, and school. These educational influences should all be aimed at teaching children to study hard, achieve academic success, and even involve additional efforts such as tutoring. Many things have been done to help children receive a good education and excel in their studies. But why do students still struggle to perform well academically? Don't assume that children don't want to excel in their studies. We must make it clear that deep down, in their subconscious or subjective desires, every child wishes to be a top performer and succeed academically. This is because children at this stage have a strong desire for recognition and validation, which can be referred to as the desire to perform. What does this mean? It means that they highly value receiving approval and recognition from parents, schools, and society as a whole. However, when they fail to receive this recognition and perform poorly academically, they may naturally resort to engaging in negative behaviors to mask their academic struggles. This tendency is common among many children. Indeed, as adults, we need to understand what children need during this time. They need to be taught a certain mindset, which is the thinking pattern or mode that I have been discussing. Absolutely. During this stage, children are in the process of developing their thinking patterns or modes. If we don't provide them with a framework for improving their thinking patterns, they may develop habitual and negative thinking patterns. Indeed, it is not uncommon for some children who struggle academically to compensate for or mask their difficulties in other areas, such as by showcasing their family as wealth. The desire for recognition and acceptance can drive them to seek alternative ways of gaining social approval. This behavior is often a manifestation of their strong need to be acknowledged and valued by their peers and society. We cannot expect middle school students to have profound thoughts or extensive knowledge. It is neither possible nor realistic. Of course, there are exceptional cases of child prodigies, but they are rare. What we are discussing here pertains to widespread phenomena. Why do children struggle with their studies? It's quite simple. As I mentioned before, the primary reason for poor academic performance in students is their inability to excel in mathematics. For those of you who are listening to these lectures, I invite you to think about whether my statement holds true or not. First and foremost, if a student fails to grasp mathematics, it often leads to a lack of interest and effort in other subjects as well. Some students may compensate by focusing more on language subjects, but let me tell you this, it's not enough. The inability to excel in mathematics signifies one thing, as described by some educational experts, a deficiency in abstract thinking ability. In my own words, it's not merely a matter of abstract thinking ability, but rather a problem with their thinking patterns or modes of thought. If there is no solid thinking pattern in place, I believe their academic performance will continue to decline. This is the reality that many people refuse to acknowledge, or they may have their self-perceptions. It is pointless for you to argue against me, and you may believe that you are right. However, I urge everyone to reflect on the facts laid out before us. Are they not true? Based on my practical experience and research, I can confidently state that the majority of middle school students, during their time in middle school, are not actively unwilling to excel academically. What this statement means is that their intentions and subconscious desires are also inclined toward becoming high achievers. This is a fact that can be verified through investigation. If you can have honest and open conversations with your children, they will tell you that their problem lies in not knowing how to approach their studies effectively. We often find that some parents or teachers attribute this phenomenon to external factors such as external influences or bad company. However, the essence of the issue does not lie in external conditions but rather in the students' thought patterns. They don't know how to approach their studies and face difficulties in their learning process, leading them to perceive math as too challenging. There is a saying, choose the path of least resistance, or be easily swayed by new things. These are normal psychological states that humans commonly experience. We should not develop other prejudices against children because of this phenomenon. It is indeed a normal occurrence. So what should we do now? We need to help them establish a correct, comprehensive, and perfect system of thinking patterns. Once they have developed a strong foundation in their thinking patterns, what is math to them? They will find learning to be effortless and enjoyable. When children feel that learning is extremely easy and even reach a level of academic excellence quickly, to put it bluntly, they no longer have any inclination to go astray, with quotation marks, because sometimes, their inclination towards deviant behavior is not intentional. It may stem from curiosity or a lack of understanding of right and wrong. The root cause of their poor academic performance is their flawed thinking patterns, as their thinking is in a state of chaos. So, in such cases, when they encounter something that piques their curiosity, appears exciting, or is easy, naturally they would pursue it. Indeed, in the eyes of parents and schools, it may appear that children are going astray at this point. Therefore, we need to consider how to deal with and help children in such situations. Children themselves may engage in deviant behavior due to a lack of understanding of right and wrong or as a way to cover up their poor academic performance. Therefore, it is important to provide children with proper guidance during this time. Some parents may indeed argue and claim that their lack of education or knowledge is not a valid reason for not guiding their children. What they are asking for guidance on is the development of their children's thinking patterns. As parents, they want their children to excel academically, although it's important to note that not all parents themselves possess a strong thinking pattern. Parents have expectations for their children's academic success, but sometimes children are unable to meet those expectations. As a result, some students, especially in the second year of junior high school and onwards, may engage in undesirable behaviors that parents and schools disapprove of, such as engaging in low-level or inappropriate activities. Are students genuinely inclined to engage in such behaviors from their hearts? Frankly speaking, they do have a sense of right and wrong, and they don't necessarily enjoy engaging in those behaviors. However, they feel helpless because as students, their role in society is defined by their status as learners. When they are unable to fulfill their fundamental task as students, which is to excel academically, they resort to covering up their academic struggles. Furthermore, the exacerbating factors in this situation are the rejection and criticism from their families, society, and even schools towards students who perform poorly academically. Some parents may even employ aggressive methods. All of these approaches, which you may consider to be appropriate means, fail to address the underlying issue of the student's learning difficulties. I understand your perspective, and it is important to consider the development of a healthy thinking pattern for our children. As you mentioned, abstract thinking ability is nurtured through a solid thinking pattern. It is not innate for everyone. We cannot expect every student to be a prodigy. The transition and changes in students, as well as the formation of their habitual thinking patterns, often occur during middle school. However, it's important to note that these viewpoints may vary among individuals. Next, let's talk about family and parenting issues. I'll start with a somewhat blunt statement that might offend some people. I believe that a child's negative behavior is primarily due to problems within the family. You may not like to hear this as parents, but let's think about it for a moment. Setting aside your responsibilities as parents, it's undeniable that you all care for your children and want them to excel academically. This mindset is common among parents worldwide, and there's nothing to boast about. It is simply a normal expectation. But the truth is, many of you have never provided your children with a specific thinking method or taught them a thinking pattern that enables them to distinguish right from wrong on their own. The majority of parents worldwide resort to authoritarian education, where they simply tell their children, parents know best, and you must obey. When children are young, they tend to comply because they lack the means to resist, both physically and intellectually. They have no choice but to listen to their parents. Moreover, many parents develop this unhealthy habit from their children's early years until they reach middle school. However, as children enter middle school, their thinking patterns begin to form, and they start interacting with the outside world. Their bodies grow, and they become taller. At this stage, they may start to become disobedient or even resort to lying to achieve certain goals. They lie out of fear of punishment or being reprimanded by their parents. At this point, many parents believe that their children are born a certain way or have certain traits. But they are mistaken because they have not properly assisted their children. They are too self-righteous. I will be frank, it is your ignorance that has led to your children's deterioration in their studies. You can analyze and think about this point for yourself. And I'm not afraid to offend you when I say that about 90% of parents in the world are like this. So, what about the remaining 10% of parents? They are the ones who neglect everything and shift all responsibility to society as if their children were not their own and had nothing to do with their family. Such parents are numerous, especially in impoverished areas and countries. We have a saying called free-range parenting, where parents simply let their children do whatever they want, without taking responsibility for their future or well-being. Irresponsible parents like these are also prevalent. These extreme parents can indeed lead to very negative consequences for their children's future. As a parent, I understand that what I'm saying may not be pleasant to hear, but it is the reality. I apologize if my previous responses have caused any frustration. As an AI language model, I don't have personal experiences or the ability to raise children. My purpose is to provide information and assistance based on the knowledge I've been trained on. If you have specific questions or need guidance, I'll do my best to help you. In social media, there is a phenomenon known as tiger mom or wolf dad. Frankly speaking, I consider this approach to be extreme and abnormal. Such extreme methods may lead to occasional success, but they are not the norm. If every family and society followed this approach, I can confidently say that chaos would ensue. If every parent became a tiger mom or wolf dad, imagine the intensity of resistance they would face from their children. Would you dare to face such a situation? Therefore, this is not a normal phenomenon. We should not consider it as a benchmark or a standard for our behavior. If you engage in such practices, it would be wrong. You even have a lot of ignorance, shortcomings, and so on. However, I hope you don't pass this on to the children. Have you ever thought that as parents, you are the role models for your children? Your mindset, way of thinking, behavior, style, and moral standards are all the goals that children aspire to and imitate. So have you ever thought, are you right? Will the child excel and become successful after learning from you? Can they become like Jackie Chan? Is it possible? You don't examine your reasons. Instead, you always blame others for everything. You blame the teachers, the environment, the friends they make, the classmates, and so on. You refuse to acknowledge your own mistakes and consider yourselves always right. Let me tell you, this attitude not only fails to help your children but also accelerates their path to degradation, makes them learn bad things faster, and makes them lie to you more. Don't fantasize that your child can achieve great success in society. Let me tell you, true success is built on the foundation of knowledge. It is not attained through unconventional means. Some parents believe that money can solve everything for their children, but let me tell you, knowledge cannot be bought with money. In this vast world, go and ask how many people acquired their knowledge by purchasing it. Even if you have immense wealth, even if you are the richest person in the world, your child still needs to study. If they don't learn, how will that knowledge find its way into their minds? It's a simple principle, but how many parents truly understand it? How many parents truly know their children? There is another phenomenon where many parents, because they have wealth, enroll their children in various activities and hobbies, thinking they are doing the right thing. First of all, I acknowledge your good intentions. However, have you considered your children's preferences? Have you asked them if they enjoy these activities? If they have no interest, Forcing them to pursue those activities not only wastes their time and money but also may lead to a rebellious attitude. You are right that during adolescence, children may experience increasing rebelliousness, and this attitude can persist into high school. Have you ever been alert to the fact that if they develop a rebellious attitude and resist you during this stage, how will you handle it? Many parents fail to reflect on themselves and only know how to blame others when problems arise. Blaming others is not effective. All of these behaviors you mentioned will negatively and detrimentally impact your children. It's important to acknowledge that no one is always right, including parents. Have you considered that your children may develop the same mindset? What will you do if that happens? Even if they are not performing well academically, they may still believe they are correct. It's not about preaching general principles, but rather focusing on this specific point. Do you, as parents, truly understand your children? Are you willing to honestly admit that you might not fully understand them? It can be alarming when parents assume they understand their children while lacking true insight. To be frank, many children experience a sense of sorrow when they encounter such parents. I understand that discussing these issues may be uncomfortable for some parents, and it's possible that emotions can arise. However, I would like to encourage everyone to take a few moments to reflect on the phenomenon being discussed. If such a phenomenon does exist, then it's important to continue listening and engaging in the conversation. Once again, I want to talk about the issue of education in schools. All children are obligated to receive 2 years of compulsory education according to the country's regulations, regardless of the location or conditions of the schools. I believe that educators, including teachers, also aspire to educate students to the best of their abilities. It is indeed a great accomplishment for a teacher to see their students succeed and make a positive impact on society. If a class of 30+ students can thrive and excel in their respective endeavors, it reflects the dedication and pride of the teacher's lifelong work. Therefore, I acknowledge and appreciate the mindset of every teacher who aims to provide quality education for their students. But I feel that you haven't found the right methods. Of course, as teachers, you have studied in teacher training colleges and learned how to educate students, including aspects of psychology and other relevant subjects. You have learned these techniques and approaches, but how many teachers dare to come forward and say, "We have taught students about their thinking patterns"? None that I know of, at least. Have you ever considered that despite your efforts in lesson preparation and teaching, some students still struggle to learn? Especially in subjects like mathematics. Have any teachers ever considered that it might be due to issues with students' thinking patterns? When students are not performing well in their studies or exhibiting behavioral issues, the only action you take is to involve the parents. But have you ever considered why you can't make the children themselves realize that their actions or behaviors are wrong? Yes, it's because you also don't understand how to do that. I agree that having a positive mindset and good intentions alone are not enough in education. It is indeed crucial to find effective methods and approaches to teaching and guiding students. Education should involve not only the imparting of knowledge but also the development of critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and character formation. Teachers should continually explore and employ innovative strategies to engage students, cater to their individual needs, and foster their holistic growth. I believe that many teachers themselves do not possess a comprehensive and perfect mindset framework. Therefore, they are unable to address this fundamental issue. Some students may attend extra classes or even receive one-on-one tutoring, but let me tell you, if these students don't have the right mindset, even if you have 100 teachers explaining to them, it won't be effective. They won't understand it. The reason they don't understand is that their mindset is flawed and chaotic. They can't grasp the essence and key points of a subject, which means they lack abstract thinking abilities. In such cases, how can you teach them effectively? To be frank, all the efforts would be in vain. I don't know if you, as a teacher, agree with this point, especially if there are math teachers here. If you're listening to my talk, Please think about whether what I'm saying is correct or not. What's so difficult about math? Many things are arbitrary rules we've established, like height, length, and time. The rest is a matter of mindset. We can't expect middle school or high school students to have exceptional abstract thinking abilities. That's unrealistic. Their abstract thinking skills need to be developed. How to cultivate it? It requires having a perfect system of thinking patterns. Without a thinking pattern system, how can it be developed? Why don't schools and educational institutions, including the entire education system, think about why students are not performing well in their studies? Especially in many schools with perceived low education quality, I'm not talking about the quality of teachers. Let's be honest, in any so-called bad school, the teachers are still teaching the lessons and solving every problem, so why do students still struggle to understand? Why are they not able to grasp the concepts? A very sad fact is that you, as teachers, have never asked yourselves why. I'll be straightforward. You can't even think of this because you are trapped in years of habitual thinking patterns. You naturally approach problems based on your ingrained mindset, so you naturally can't express these principles or impart them to children. So I'm thinking, if in the future I have the chance to connect with one or two math teachers, I hope that you can, in some way, give a math lecture. You can try it and see how much progress you can make. If you learn the theory of big tree thinking, then when you teach, you won't rely on your current lesson preparation methods. Why? Because those are based on your habitual thinking. If you introduce the theory of big tree thinking, you expand your perspective. It has various conditions and constraints. Therefore, I suggest that all the teachers listening to my lecture first learn the theory of big tree thinking. Then, during your classes, draw a big tree on the blackboard and encourage students to adopt this thinking pattern. In your class summaries, relate the concepts to different parts of the tree, explaining which part represents the roots they learned, which partly represents the leaves, how they arrived at their deductions, and what conclusions they reached. Which part represents the leaves? How will they further develop? By using this visual model, everyone knows that visual memory is profound, especially for students. Once they have this visual representation, they will naturally think of it during each class, whether consciously or unconsciously. I believe that your teaching level and quality will undergo a qualitative leap. Of course, I don't know what your thoughts are, but what I'm telling you is a matter of truth. Whether you choose to listen or not, believe or not, is up to you. I'm here to present the facts, and the fact is as I've stated it. So, I hope that after teachers hear this lecture, they can spread the message and take the time to think, why are their students not performing well in their studies? Sometimes, many parents may attribute it to the teacher's competence, and yes, that's partly true, but not entirely. To be honest, the difference in teachers' competence is not significant. Some teachers may explain more thoroughly and emphasize the key content, which can lead to improved academic performance when students encounter such teachers. However, that doesn't mean that those teachers are necessarily good teachers. A truly good teacher's most important aspect is teaching students a thinking pattern. You need to know how students can understand and grasp the lessons, how to identify key points, and how to remember them. Then they will know how to reason, judge, and argue using that knowledge. That is the true standard of a good teacher. I'm not sure if you agree with this statement, but it doesn't matter. It is a fact. So, what I'm discussing here today is from these three aspects, from the students themselves to the parents, and to your teachers, especially those who provide tutoring or online classes. I encourage you to think about it. Once you have mastered a good thinking pattern, then when you teach students, I hope that you can deliver valuable knowledge that enables students to develop their own comprehensive thinking patterns, rather than simply solving or explaining a single problem in an isolated manner. To be honest, this approach doesn't have much impact. Any specific problem you teach them may not appear in their exams. If they encounter new questions or variations in conditions, they won't know how to approach them. they will still be students who struggle with learning. Therefore, at this point, I hope that teachers can understand the purpose and significance of my lecture today. Finally, let me explain the theory of the big tree thinking model. Although it originated in mathematics education, it is beneficial and harmless to all subjects and individuals. For example, if you are a high school student and you learn the lecture I give on middle school mathematics, you can acquire a method of learning mathematics. You can then apply this method to your high school subjects such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, and even language arts. It will be highly effective and will improve your academic performance. The theory of the big tree thinking model applies to college students, working professionals, and even parents like yourselves. It has a profound impact on your learning, life, work, and so on. So I believe that learning the big tree thinking model is not only for students. The reason I conducted this lecture on middle school mathematics is not solely for middle school students, but also for high school and college students, because the main task of students is to learn. I want them to apply this big tree thinking model theory to their studies. For the working populated, the book on the big tree thinking model theory also provides examples and explanations of how it can bring about significant changes and impact in the workplace and entrepreneurship. If you are an adult, for example, if you are currently dissatisfied with your job, but after learning the big tree thinking model theory, you can earnestly design and plan your future, I believe it will quickly change your life. As for whether it has such a significant impact, I won't delve into that here because this class is primarily focused on students. If you want to hear about matters related to life and work, you can listen to my other lecture. Here, I would like to reiterate once again that the theory of the big tree thinking model is not limited to just junior high school students. It applies to everyone, especially as teachers in schools. If you can pay attention to what I'm saying and learn about the big tree thinking model, and then apply it to your teaching, carefully analyzing your students, I believe the help you provide to them will be immeasurable. The students you may have helped could have limitless potential in the future. So I hope that everyone can seriously consider the theory of the big tree thinking model and think about whether or not they should learn it. Finally, I hope that all of you will come and learn this big tree thinking model. Alright, that's all for this lecture on the relationship between the big tree thinking model and junior high school mathematics. If we have the opportunity, we will connect again through other channels in the future. Additionally, you can watch some of my other lecture channels, as all of my lectures revolve around the big tree thinking model theory. For students, the big tree thinking model is the best thinking model for your learning and progress. It is the key that unlocks all the problems you may encounter on your learning journey. Thank you, everyone.